Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a big welcome from the Twin Ring Motegi all the way in Japan as the Dark Horse Racing Series makes its way outside of the United States for the first time this season. My name's Scott Rankin. Alongside me will be Jeff Johnson throughout the night, who's managing the cameras. Unfortunately, Seth Cole not available this week. Most of the Flat Out Racing Network crew have actually made their way down to Bristol to go and enjoy some stock car racing from the last great Coliseum. It is Dark Horse Racing's sixth last race of the season. The championship closer than it has been for the bulk of the season, but it's been one of those years where the season has zigzagged. First it zigged, then it zagged. Rick Ravon ended up with COVID, ended up in the hospital, and last week ended up in victory lane. On the way to recovery, and he makes it all the way to victory lane. It was a phenomenal race from the Milwaukee Mile, and tonight it's going to be another one. The Twin Ring Motegi Oval. It is very, very similar in layout to Gateway. Very, very similar in style to Gateway. And talking to Matt Wagner, he says he absolutely loves this place. His season hasn't been all his own way. The point standings, I believe, are up on your screen at this point in time. Well, they just closed off from being on your screen. It is close at the top. Rick Ravon, like I said, he's managed to make his way back up the point standings. Misses around, still manages to keep himself in contention. Isn't that just a wonderful story? Qualifying most of the way through at this point in time. We have just under 2 minutes, just under 2 minutes remaining on qualifying. Currently, the fastest lap has been set by John DiMatteo at 26.748. Now, coming over from practice, there were 5 drivers in practice that beat that. Starting with Henry Bennett, Matt Wagner was second fastest in practice session. Rick Ravon, Jimmy Dryden, and Robert Maleska both tied for a 7.46 in practice. Their laps starting to come through thick and fast. The action's going to start to heat up out on track as well. So keep your eyes forward. Matt Wagner currently doing the first of his qualifying laps. Robert Maleska the third out on track as well. All of these drivers waiting to the last few moments of qualifying. Henry Bennett has just started his first qualifying lap as well. So times are gonna come in thick and fast. Let's take a look once again at those championship standings, because it is very, very important to keep up to date with those. With only a few rounds left, Rick Ravon has managed to make his way back to the point. 4 points separates him from Henry Bennett. Nick de Groot back there in third. 15 points the margin. Remember, after last week, we ended up with a really, really interesting little quirk, was that there was 11 points from Henry Bennett back to Nick de Groot. From there, there's 11 points back to Robert Maleska the third at 26 off of Rick Ravon. From there, 11 points back to Matt Wagner at 37 points adrift from our leader. 5 drivers, theoretically, you would expect one of our champion to be among those 5 drivers at the point. Like I said, Matt Wagner is on a resurgence. This is the track that he wants to win at. And currently, he's got the pole time of a 26.569. Henry Bennett unable to beat that with a 26.614, has finished his second qualifying lap. I believe Wagner has actually only done one qualifying lap. Robert Maleska has now finished his laps. He's 26.615. Qualifying has closed, and for the first time this season, Matt Wagner comes out and grabs the pole, and if he wants to keep his championship efforts alive, he's done all he needs to do. Bronson Stafford, keep your eyes on him. All the way back there in 6th, won't be in the field tonight. Part of the Flat Out Racing Network crew, I believe, that have gone all the way down to Bristol. 20 cars make up your field for the Dark Horse Racing Series this evening, brought to you by Troy Lee Designs. If you need a helmet, you want to get it from Troy Lee Designs. They make some phenomenal designs, actually. To be perfectly honest, whether or not they sponsor the series, they actually make my favorite helmets. So, look, I think it's just awesome to be able to bring you a racing series proudly sponsored by Troy Lee Designs. Right, that is your grid. Qualifying is done. It's set and in the books for the 185-mile race from the Twin Ring Motegi. Jimmy Dryden receives an end-of-line penalty, was the cause of multiple accidents over the last few weeks. He will be starting from the rear of the grid. Managed to qualify himself all the way up into P6. He will drop to the rear. That's going to accelerate all of the even placed line behind him from 8th, 10th, etc. on back. So keep your eyes over on those guys. Championship leader Rick Ravon qualifies off the inside of the 3rd row of the grid in 5th position. But like I said, Matt Wagner off of pole. That is a huge story. A driver that has been attempting to get himself up there, attempting to get everything in the books. Remember back to Mosport Park just a few weeks ago, did not manage to set a qualifying time. He had issues during qualifying on both of his attempts getting out there and getting a lap in. Started from the rear, managed to make it all the way back up to 4th. Is tonight finally the night that Matt Wagner makes his return to victory lane. Henry Bennett, the driver that's put together all of the setups so far for the Dark Horse Racing Series, a phenomenal driver, has been to victory lane, was leading the championship for a very brief period of time. 26.614, he'll sit in 2nd place. Robert Maleska III, your defending champion for the Dark Horse Racing Series, hasn't had the cleanest of seasons. I think in terms of things, if you have a look at what's the big comparison between this season and last season, is that Maleska III has not been consistent at all. And he'll be looking to stamp his authority on tonight's race as well. Rolls off of 3rd place, only 1/1000th of a second slower than Henry Bennett. Charles Teed, what a phenomenal qualifying performance from Charles Teed off of the 4th position on the grid. Rick Ravon headline the 3rd row off the grid. Remember what I said, Jimmy Drynan receives that end of line penalty for incidents in previous races. He will not be taking his position on the 3rd row of the grid. That will actually be AJ Hobson that will be moved up into his slot. 7th on the grid will be Eric Peterson. John DiMatteo will... No, sorry, my apologies. It'll be Craig Forsyth that'll be alongside him. John DiMatteo will be in P9. Jim Herrick will be... alongside it really gets complicated because of that penalty to Jimmy Drynan, shuffles that whole outside line down. Of course, Jim Herrick and Dylan Moskowitz 11th and 12th on the grid. Remember that Moskowitz will get accelerated by 1 grid slot for row 6. Row 7, David Cook and Jeff Highsong. 15th is going to be Gary Corley and Eric Schaus. Covey Moore is going to be 17th. 18th was Nick DeGroot, didn't say the qualifying time. Gail Brooks and Todd Schneider will be the back row of the grid. And lights out, and away we go. On the run down to turn number 1. Wagner will control the field. He will move defensive, and he will control them for the initial lap. Oh, big contact in the background. Huge shot into the outside fence. First caution of the night. Car spinning on its lid in turn 1.
My goodness, turn 1, lap 1, AJ Hobson, just a gnarly accident, somehow managing to roll away. Not sure what happened. We'll grab the replay for you there, Scott.
I feel it was a light blue car in the middle of the pack that that caused that one. It might have been, it's just in front of David Cook. It was Craig Forsyth that that had contact. So this will tell the story. Just didn't quite get the run that he was hoping for, and Craig Forsyth got a huge launch off in the middle of the corner in behind him, towed all the way back up, and it's just lifted off the rear of his car off the ground slightly with that contact, out into the outside wall, spinning on his lid. AJ Hobson is going to have a long road to recovery here tonight. We'll go multiple laps down, so he's already 1 lap down to the rear end of the field, towing back to pit road at this point in time. This will, yeah, see, it's just a contact to the rear end.
Just a simple misjudgment. I mean, about as early in the race as it can happen.
Quirks at Gateway also become quirks of the Twin Ring Motegi. Just a little bit bigger, a little bit longer straights than Gateway, so more ability for overtakes. As the tires start to settle in, less overtakes are going to happen. Pretty much standard policy for all of these guys. AJ Hobson's sitting on pit road, but Craig Forsyth is going to come down and get that nose cone repaired. Did go up on the jacks as well, so I'm wondering whether he just took a fresh set of tires as well. Whole host of cars in behind are coming down to just top off and fuel, seeing as they're already back there anyway. Still, Matt Wagner controlled the field down into turn number 1 for the first lap, and will continue to control the field. Good restart from him. Anything you noticed in that incident, Jeff? Anything? No, I don't think there was any malice in that one at all. That's just
No,
misjudgment.
no, absolutely not. As somebody who doesn't race much, I am, my home is in stock cars. So as someone who's fairly new to the DW12 and open wheel racing in general, it looked like a simple misjudgment. The closing ratio with these cars. Sometimes you just make a mistake, and in a stock car, if you make a mistake, you can put somebody in the wall, and you can kind of laugh about it. But a mistake here, and that is essentially going to end AJ Hobson's race. Nothing malicious.
Well, no, it won't end AJ Hobson's race. He will get the fast repair done. He'll probably be 2 laps down. At least 2 laps down. It is still in the pit lane, so the car hasn't completed its towing cycle back to the pit lane. Whole host of cars. Must be a fuel race here tonight by the look of things, having a look back up through the pack, because a whole bunch of cars have just come back down pit road to top off once again.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you. I'm not sure what type of what type of run we're looking at on fuel here, but does this open up the possibility of strategy for any of these guys, or is it
Look at the number of cars.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
That's a lot of cars, Jeff. A lot of cars coming down pit road, so fuel's clearly going to be important to these guys. Remember what we said, 185 miles is going to be the race distance here tonight at the Twin Ring Motegi. 120 laps the distance under caution number 1 for this evening. Can be a long race if this keeps up.
Oh, absolutely. It looks like they'll start to line it up on the back straightaways. We're gonna come around for the first restart of the race. Single file restarts, obviously, in an open wheel series.
Race car has its lights off. We'll be ducking onto pit road. Up near the wall, Matt Wagner getting ready for another restart. Looks like Rick Ravon's managed to grab himself 1 position off the start. Has moved up from 5th into 4th. He's gotten past Charles Teed. So it is going to be Wagner, Bennett, Maleska, your top 3, followed by Ravon. So 4 out of your top 5 in the championship contention up there. Nick de Groot has managed to make his way from 18th on the grid without setting a time all the way up to P12 already. One of the cars I would say that has not pit under that caution. So back to the gas the guys get, and Ravon wastes no time getting by Robert Maleska the third. Maleska on a backward trend, and Ravon's going to take this opportunity to hopefully surge back up and contest Henry Bennett. But look at Matt Wagner, the guy without any aero issues on the front end of his car. He's going to take that clean air and lead us back away for the first full lap of green flag racing so far this evening.
Yeah, Rick Ravon timed that restart just about as good as he could have to get around the 91 of Robert.
Keeping our eyes back in the pack, there's a move, I believe, started to be made down around. Yeah, it's Nick de Groot that's going to send it to the inside here of David Cook. Got to get that move done. Teammate to Rick Ravon, recent addition to the series, David Cook. So these guys have got to plan back here, and David Cook all of a sudden gets the run off of 3 and 4s, looking to respond, pulled out of the draft, backed it down. He's going to follow Nick de Groot, I think, through the traffic. These guys have both been quick. Qualifying has not been good for either Nick de Groot, didn't get a lap in, or David Cook, who just did not get the lap he was after. Teammate to Rick Ravon, you'd expect him to be up the front. Cars just a couple ahead of these guys side by side as well. I believe that's Dylan Moskowitz, it is, down the inside of John DiMatteo. So DiMatteo was reasonably quick in the early phases of qualifying, starting to fade back through the field a little bit, wondering if he might be on a little bit of a tyre conservation strategy. Moskowitz gets the pass complete, and finally it looks like David Cook is going to settle back in behind Nick de Groot. They are fighting tooth and nail in the early phase of this race. Very deep into the corner, John DiMatteo shuffles Moskowitz up the track a little bit. You've got to be careful now if you're in Nick de Groot's shoes. 3 wide on the front straight. Back to 2 wide at this point in time as DiMatteo pulls out of that move. Nick de Groot on the inside, looking to keep his championship alive. He's going to come across Moskowitz. Will be the next car he'll look to get the move done on. He's there now. Shows the nose towards the inside of Moskowitz. Gets the nose down in there. And Jim Herrick will be the next car for the Nick de Groot assault to continue on. John DiMatteo not giving up on this one. Heavy racing in the early phases of this race. The front 6 have broken away by a fair margin. Matt Wagner a long way ahead to the high side. Nick de Groot a long way up the banking through 1 and 2. Jim Herrick doing a great job defending on the outside of Dylan Moskowitz as well. These guys are going toe-to-toe in the opening phase of this one. Remember, 120 laps the distance, so a long race ahead of these guys. Now it's going to be David Cook that looks to assault John Di Matteo. Matteo all the way down in the bottom of the racetrack looking to defend the inside lane. Nick de Groot running the high lane. He's going to look to go for the crisscross here on Dylan Moskowitz. He's going to get to his inside. Really good run off the corner for Nick de Groot. We'll get to his inside deep into the braking zone for 3 and 4. A little bit of a lift off. Settle the car down on the inside. He'll get that move done. Just barely clearing Moskowitz on the corner exit. Moskowitz will have another crack at him down on the inside into 1 and 2. So not easy to complete passes. Very similar style towards Gateway. Very similar track layout towards Gateway. One open-ended corner, one tight-ended corner. So one end of the track really open, really able to flow the cars through. That's 1 and 2. And down here into 3 and 4. Keeping your eyes a little bit further back in the pack as well. Jeff Highsong and crew battling it quite a way here in the 72 of Eric Schaus as well. Schaus hasn't had the season that he would have really liked. Down to the inside now, he will be to Craig Forsyth. Forsyth shuffling himself back ahead after that opening lap contact.
Battle for second between Rick Raven and Henry Bennett. They've been going back and forth for the last couple laps, basically changing positions every corner as we see now Henry Bennett making the move again on Rick Raven for P2.
Yeah, Ravon wasting no time getting to the point of his race. He wants to really control the pace in the opening phases of this one. Bennett, though, says, no, you can't really control that one. I want a little bit of a piece of it as well. And Matt Wagner's taken the opportunity to just bolt away from these guys. To the outside, once again, Henry Bennett looking to get that slingshot, get the momentum off the corner, nearly slaps the wall. I think he managed to dodge it. I think he gets away without damage, but he will have to roll out of the throttle, and that will hand the move back over to Rick Ravon. And at one of those circuits, it's a little more tricky to drive. You don't want a moment like that early on in the race. You don't want to have to burn that fast repair.
Yeah, that fast repair, I was unaware coming into this race that this series had fast repairs, but that something to me that seems like would be a godsend in a series like this where one mistake can, you know, in the real world it would end your day, but here it's nice to have kind of that backup plan in case something does go wrong.
That's just it, and that's why they love it, and it allows the drivers. The benefit here in this season, Jeff, to a newbie like you as well, is that these guys race it incredibly hard. There is no lifting out, and the racing's so tight and so close that one tiny little mistake can end 3 or 4 cars' races, and that's not what the series want. That's not what the series wants to see. The series wants to see these guys out here and competing, and they also want to see championship contenders be able to take on tire strategies and get back up there. The fast repair, it just allows those mistakes to happen sometimes. We all know racing's not going to be the cleanest week in, week out. We've seen that from a lot of guys throughout the season. Robert Mileska down the inside of Charles Teed as well, just in the background of that shot. Keeping your eyes further back in the pack as well. And once again, the racing from the Dark Horse Racing Series continues to be impressive in the DW12. The older generation IndyCar on the service these days. Most people will know and run the R13. But the DW12, no aero screen, no driver protection over their heads. But
wow, Nick de Groot might have actually caught the wall just a little bit off turn 4 right there. Keeps going, doesn't lose a lot of speed, but oh my god, these guys are driving right on the ragged edge of what I would expect for a series like this, and you know, I really do love to see it.
Oh, the racing's been intense, Jeff. The racing has been incredible right the way through the season. We've seen the opening round of the season was a fuel strategy race. Robert Mileska and a few drivers who managed to not have to take that one extra fuel stop got themselves to the 4. Mileska took out the opening round, and we just thought from there on out it was potentially just going to be another routing by Robert Mileska III. It has not been so. Road America was where his troubles really began when he put the car in the fence, failed to finish that race, got himself caught up at Homestead as well with, I believe it was Jimmy Drynan. No, sorry, my apologies. I believe it was Gail Brooks. And unfortunately, might have been Eric Brooks, actually. It was one of the Brooks guys. Eric was, it was in a final lap tussle for the win. Mileska had to send it. He did send it. Brooks didn't leave him quite enough room. I mean, both drivers made mistakes, I think, in that one, but it was definitely more heavily on Robert Mileska III. And that's pretty much been his season. a lot of mistakes, a lot of inconsistencies right the way through, and it's the reason that he hasn't dominated this season like he did last one. Was the runaway champion last year. Speaking of runaway champions and guys running away with things right now, Matt Wagner continues to run away with this race out the point. Rick Ravon has finally managed to run away from Henry Bennett as well, so that battle's settled down. So first, second, third, pretty much out on their lonesome at this point in time. Aleska the third trying to tail quite closely and close in a little bit onto Henry Bennett as well. Charles Teed, Eric Peterson going along with him. This is a phenomenal effort from Charles Teed. He's slowly been piecing his season together as it's gone on. And Nick de Groot, finally to the point of that pack a little bit further down, is starting to close up on our leaders as well. Don't forget, cars on your screen right now. Dylan Moskowitz nearly got involved in those overtaking moves with not only David Cook, Jeff Hysong's in there. Eric Schaus is just in behind him as well. And Nick de Groot on his way through. You've got to be aggressive. You've got to try and get these moves done when you find yourself at the back of the pack after a poor qualifying effort. But at the same time, you've got to make those passes clean. Don't want to be burning that fast repair early on. Covey Moore has left the server, taken his car behind the garage wall. Not 100% sure what happened to Covey Moore, but can confirm AJ Hobson is back out and circulating. So at least his night is beginning its recovery. It'll be a long way back from here at 2 laps down.
The struggle now for AJ Hobson, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no free pass in a series like this, so he'll more or less have to...
They do. They
okay.
did add it
Perfect.
in. Yes. So there is the Lucky Dog rule is in effect for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series.
That does make it a lot easier for AJ Hobson.
John DiMatteo is doing a phenomenal job, I think, up here as well. Eric Schaus has made quite a few moves over the last couple laps. He's now just put Jeff Hysong and Dylan Moskowitz behind him. He'll look to run away from this small battle pack. You can see the tires start to wearing, drivers struggling to get the car all the way to the bottom in 3 and 4, and that battle pack towards them. Isn't that a great shot running down the main straightaway? And all the cars in behind them. So the back of the pack hasn't spread out. The leaders have spread out by a fair margin. There's daylight between first, second, third, and fourth. Fifth and sixth tightly away. It'll be Charles Teed and Eric Peterson. And Moskowitz and Hysong continue their fight. It's just not going to settle down for either of these guys, as Moskowitz will take the place back once more. Pack. It would be so difficult for David Cook right now. Oh, sorry, David Cook's actually run away. My apologies. I'm looking at John DiMatteo's car and going, yeah, that's David Cook. Right in the middle of this pack with all the aero wash and heavy fighting. If you make one little mistake, a car behind you is going to try and send it. If you try and send it on the car in front, it's going to check you up on the mid corner, and it's going to present an opportunity to the car. You've got to manage these opportunities. You've got to push yourself further forward, but at the same time, you're trying to prevent somebody behind you from getting that run, keeping our eyes a little bit further back as well. Down the inside. Not quite going to be able to complete the pass there on Craig Forsyth was Gary Corley. Jimmy Dryden, after that end of line penalty, still running around in the 17th position.
Jimmy Dryden, I was actually just about to point out, it seems to me that we're getting to the point of the run where you're looking for not an opportunity to pass somebody, but to just capitalize on their mistakes. As the tires fall off and as the field spreads out, you're not looking to pass somebody more, as you're looking to not be behind them when somebody, like I just watched Jimmy Dryden have a big moment off turn 2 where he almost hit the wall, had to check way up and lost 3 positions and counting because of it.
Jimmy Dryden's another one of those drivers that showed bits and pieces of speed over the last couple of weeks. He's struggling to put the race together. He's struggling to put the clean and consistent race together. And I think the driver that he is now, if you compare him back to what he was at the start of the season, he was basically just a walking chicane. You didn't know when Dryden was going to have an issue and if he was going to collect somebody in the process. But the driver that he is now is certainly 10 times better than when we first saw him out here. And it's a great improvement and a really good opportunity for Jimmy Dryden to continue to progress his season. If he can make hay whilst the sun shines out of this end-of-line penalty and look after that car, look after those tires, go the long run. He has got the fuel over the rest of these guys.
Looks like Todd Schneider actually hit pit road. Maybe something odd going on there. Sounded like you might have had a... Oh, we got a car on the wall in turn 1.
That's John DiMatteo, and that will bring out the caution. I'm wondering what's caused that one, because that nearly looks like it might have been a single car incident.
Let's grab the replay for you. A lot going on real quick there.
Oh, that is huge. Huge gap whack. By the way, Jeff, if this will be the first time you'll be hearing the term gap whack, we opted to go with not calling it netcode. We call it gap whack here.
Oh, okay. I see. Oh, dear. Wow.
You can see here, right there, how he's gotten a whack from a gap. There's just nothing he could do. On the outside there of Jeff Highsong, I believe it was. That's unfortunate, but he'll grab that fast repair, get himself back in the race. He'll grab that car down pit road. And second caution of the night, a long enough distance. You'll see just about the entire field, I would say. In fact, if not the entire field, come down pit road under this caution. AJ Hobson will get one of his 2 laps back. Keeping your eyes on the leaders at this point in time. Everyone on pit road. This will be Rick Ravon's opportunity, restarting much closer to Matt Wagner this time by. I believe that's AJ Hobson that stayed out and make his way past the pace car, and indeed it is. So, pit lane battle. Rick Ravon is a long way back. He did qualify P5, so he had the earliest pit stall. He'll be the first car to trundle out of that one. Matt Wagner closest to the line. Field will resume services as they entered. Wagner from Ravon, from Henry Bennett, Robert Maleska III, Charles Teed, Nick de Groot making his way all the way up into P6. So that's one position gained off of pit road, I believe, for Nick de Groot. He will bypass Eric Peterson, so he will restart from the 6th position. 34 laps in the book, 35th lap underway at this point in time. So we are just past a quarter of race distance. Indeed, coming up on 1/3 race distance. Couple laps time. AJ Hobson and it wasn't Todd Schneider. So Todd Schneider come down pit road and is back on pit road. Won't get any of his laps back. He's now moved to 2 laps down. So AJ Hobson and John DiMatteo will be fighting for that lucky dog position, although John DiMatteo is still on pit road. I'm wondering whether or not he has accidentally burned his fast repair earlier in the piece, or if he ended up having to tow back to pit road, because there is a fair chance he may not have been able to drive that car back to pit road, Jeff.
Yeah, you can only crab walk for so long in any car, and you know that is one of the downsides. Is that fast repair, if memory serves me correctly, is always checked, so it is really easy to burn it without even noticing it, and then when you need it, it's gone.
Be disappointing for John DiMatteo, especially if it's contact due to gap whack.
I'm going to keep that. I will spread that phrase far and wide.
You want something else to spread? Another phrase? Smooth driving like a creamy milkshake.
Smooth driving like a creamy milkshake.
Yep.
That makes me feel some sort of way, I tell you.
Some sort of way? Are you sure? Not 100% sure which way that makes you feel?
Not sure what I feel, but it makes me feel something.
Makes you feel like a milkshake after this, yes?
I don't know. Well, no.
Oh, I tell you what I wouldn't give to go out to a milk bar right now to go and get myself actually a lovely milkshake. Australia's been I've been in lockdown for over 3 months. I'm bored. I'm going mental. I come up with, funny phrases and things. We've hit gap whack, milkshakes. What's the outside world like, Jeff? Tell me.
I'd love to tell you, but you're locked down and I hide at home because yeah.
Self-inflicted isolation by the sounds of it.
Oh yeah, I was isolating before there was ever a pandemic. Woohoo!
You were doing it before it was cool.
Yeah. So that is the nature of being kind of a broadcast man, is you spend a lot of time in dark rooms not talking to anybody.
Hissing at the light. Daylight, you open a window and you just hiss and close the window very quickly.
There's a reason we don't have windows in in broadcast buildings.
It's actually for those of you who aren't who aren't aware. It's actually to try and make sure that you can pick out any little differences in the broadcast. You can actually pick it up. So there's actually a really good reason for it. But anyway, lights are out atop the pace car. Matt Wagner has the field under control yet again. So it'll be Wagner from Rick Ravon who pushed his way through. Ravon's being quick on the long run, as is usually the case. Not necessarily able to get the fastest qualifying lap on multiple occasions, but has raced his way to the fore. Be interesting to see if he goes with Matt Wagner here on this restart. Field under Wagner's control. Down goes the throttle pedal. He will snake that field down to the inside to defend that line. The rules here for defending as well. You can make one move and then return to your line. That's it. You can't block and weave multiple times to prevent the drafting, so it moves down to the apron early off of turn 1 and 2, then back to the high line. Ravon closing in. Rick Ravon hunting for that first spot, leading the championship. Matt Wagner needs this win if he's going to get his championship back alive. He has to defend this spot for all his money. Henry Bennett has Robert Maleska III crawling all over him as well. Multiple battles in the top of the field. Check the high shot coming down the backstretch as well. Once again, Ravon right there. Looking to go over under. Get himself a really good exit off the corner and then use the draft to tow himself all the way back up onto things. Nick de Groot has managed to get his way past Charles Teed, so he's now up into the 5th spot as well. Great restart from de Groot. Charles Teed to the high side, trying to make the high side work on Nick de Groot. They will go side by side down the back straight away. Keep your eyes back further in the as well. Eric Peterson begins to close in on these guys. Jim Herrick as well is going to attach himself to the rear end of this battle. De Groot defends most of the way to the bottom of the racetrack. Once again, he's going to force Charles Teed to go the long way around, so De Groot will hold it off the exit. Charles Teed continuing to look to get to the bottom of the racing track. Can't quite get the car all the way down there. So Teed will once again move to the high side of the corner in 3 and 4, looking to build that run off of the exit. De Groot is not letting him have the bottom of the racetrack. He's there now. Charles Teed to the inside. Into 1 and 2. We'll get the pass done. Nick de Groot's going to come straight back at him. Charles Teed is going to remember the defensive moves. Caution is out. There's an incident on the exit of 1 and 2. Who got that one from de Groot and Charles Teed? It's going to be Charles Teed that maintains track position in that fight. And our third caution of the night comes out, lap 42. 5-6 laps on the green flag run at that time by safety car in the middle of turn 2 at this point in time. Field will bunch itself back up once again. I haven't seen what happened during this one. Let's go to the Flat Out Racing Network replay.
I gotta be honest with you, Scott. Looking around the track, it's not immediately apparent what happened.
Oh, found it.
Yep, I was just about to say. Looks like turn 1.
Riding and Gary Cooley have had it coming together.
Ooh.
That's a tricky one.
And no harm, no foul. Looks like, whoa, looks like everybody got away with got away with one there. Nobody really making any contact after the initial spin.
This is actually Gary Corley to the inside of Jimmy Duran, and I thought for half a moment it might have been the other way around. Just hit the bump in the middle of 1 and 2. Car rides up a little bit on the track, so it's just a little bit nose-to-nose contact. Yeah, no contact with the fence for any of the drivers involved in that one.
A good spin and good avoidance.
So Jeff, talking about milkshakes earlier in the piece, favorite flavor of milkshake? You will be disowned if you don't say strawberry, by the way.
I can genuinely say I have never had a strawberry milkshake.
Seth Cole, Matt Rodriguez, leave me for 1 week with a guy that's never had a strawberry milkshake. I'm gonna need to double my rates.
Listen, friend, there's a reason. How do I put this delicately? I do believe you are part of the A team, and I also believe I don't even have a team next to my name. We are
FRN team.
Yeah,
team
fair.
FRN.
Part of the team, but I think there's a D or an E somewhere in my team name.
I mean, you know, you could make yourself cool and go X team. You're part of FRN's X-Men. That's a long way down the alphabet, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, that sounds fun. We would
also very likely to get us a copyright strike, by the way.
One or two, yeah. It would be nice to be part of the team that is going to Bristol this weekend, but I digress.
Well, see, I can't even leave the house, let alone the country, so that's why I'm not at Bristol.
Not that far from Bristol. We're out here in North Florida, but no, nobody ever invites the new guy to anything.
I can tell you they've been planning this one for months, so it doesn't surprise me. Honestly, next year's trip, I'm going to try, provided COVID's settled down a little bit and there's some money in the bank, it would be nice.
It's funny. That's actually one of the first things we talked about when I was starting here. It was like, all right, well, here's this week in September where we are all going bye-bye, and it is be your responsibility to do absolutely everything. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
It was actually really smart to not put me in charge of everything, too. Great move by Matt Rod. They put at least somebody competent in charge of things. I can just talk. I'm good at talking. Everything else, no. So wait, does that mean that I'm part of the A team or the X team as well? You know what? We are X-Men.
Porque no los dos. Oh man.
Your regularly scheduled high broadcast quality will return next week.
you make it fun, Scott, I tell you.
That's it. You gotta have fun with your broadcasts. So, Matt Wagner controls this one. We saw Rayvon crawling all over him in the background. You think Rayvon's got the pace to make a pass on Wagner here and get some of that clean out of the nose?
I think he's got something for him. I think Matt Wagner has been in control long enough that I would not be surprised if a driver like that is saving a little bit for the end. Saw those guys run, I believe, 5 or 6 laps there, so a little bit of tire fall off might make this restart interesting, but we'll see what happens.
Just having a quick look through the pack, the first of our takers on that most recent pit stop was Charles Teed, Dylan Moskowitz, Gale Brooks, Jeff Hyson, Craig Forsyth, Gary Corley, Jimmy Drynan, AJ Hobson, now back on the lead lap. And late on through the gears is Matt Wagner this time. Really late restart will again lead the field down into turn number 1. Look at Nick de Groot having a look. The rear bumper of Henry Miles' car, and that rear wing is now under complete and utter de Groot assault.
Matt Wagner backed it up on this restart, and it stacked them all up, and everybody's trying to get every spot they can at this point in the race.
Keep your eyes on David Cook as well, just in behind. He is on the inside line of Eric Peterson, 2 by 2 through 3 and 4.
Hey, look at this. Here goes Rick Ray Vaughn to the inside.
So Rayvon's actually going to go to the outside. Henry Bennett's there as well. They're nearly three
Wow.
wide. All the way up underneath his rear bumper. They nearly make contact heading down the back stretch. Rayvon all the way to the fence. Henry Bennett shows his nose underneath Rick Rayvon. Rick Rayvon to the outside of Matt Wagner. Matt Wagner defending for all money. Has to run a very low line. Rayvon got it a little bit loose off of turns 3 and 4, gets to the inside of Matt Wagner in 1 and 2. Will he clear him though? That's the crucial part. Still there, still side by side off of 1 and 2. Now Matt Wagner will get the momentum and get the run from the high side. Rayvon defends the inside line. Will not let that one go. Henry Bennett now to the inside, looking to send it 3 wide. And finally, Rick Rayvon will get clear. Moves all the way to the bottom of the racetrack. He wants to hang on to this position. This is Rick Rayvon's race. He's saying, I want this one. Matt Wagner's had control thus far. He will finally relinquish that control to Rick Rayvon, and Henry Bennett is still there. Both of them continuing to run the high line. Henry Bennett, he's got the nose there. It's 3 wide for half a moment. He had to back out. Rick Rayvon controls these two. All the way to the bottom of the circuit. Once again on the main straightaway. Moves to the bottom of the track. Begins to move back up. And Matt Wagner will finally settle in to second position. However, check this run out from Henry Bennett. He wants a piece of this one. He's looking for the opening. And look at Robert Maleska III. He's just lurking in the background, watching these guys. He wants to pick up the pieces. Matt Wagner to the high side in 3 and 4. Gets all the way up there. I think he's got a little bit of a run this time. Rayvon and him side by side on the run down the front stretch. Rick Rayvon leads the race, but only just. Matt Wagner wants a piece of this one. He wants it back. He's had control. He's now relinquished control. He's not happy about that. And Henry Bennett all over the track, trying to find where's the best lane, where's the best draft. Once again, Matt Wagner all the way up to the high side, tries to get the move done. Everyone trying to defend that bottom line. It looks like that's the place to get the moves done, Jeff.
I gotta be honest with you, I am just about as speechless as I have ever been watching a race. This is some of the most intense racing I have ever seen on iRacing. Wow!
Defensive driving. Henry Bennett all the way to the apron. Gets his nose in there underneath Matt Wagner. He wants a spot. He wants to get by Wagner. This allows Rick Rayvon to get a little bit away. Bennett's going to follow him. Rayvon all the way back to the high side to defend. And look at the pack all of a sudden start to get closer in behind them. Here comes Robert Maleska to assault Henry Bennett. Rayvon back to the inside. Nick de Groot's finally caught up to these guys. Eric Schaus is there as well. So de Groot's going to clear Robert Maleska III. Cars weaving back and forth down the front stretch, trying to defend that bottom lane, but still wanting to open up the corner entry. Bennett gets to Wagner's outside. He's got the run, won't clear him, will clear him. Now looks to go to Rayvon's inside. Gets it all the way to the bottom of the circuit. Once again, Rayvon will defend it. He will go all the way to the wall on the front stretch. Weaves left and right. Now Matt Wagner has to defend. First time for this race that he's had to follow these guys. Gets a really good run, does Wagner, off of 1 and 2. Here comes Nick de Groot. De Groot to the inside of Wagner. Bennett doesn't get the car stopped nicely in the middle of 3 and 4. And Rick Rayvon gets a breath of fresh air. Now daylight between him and the next car. Matt Wagner takes a look to the inside of Henry Bennett. Bennett shuts the door there now. And Nick de Groot gets a really good run through 1 and 2. He's going to try and get to Matt Wagner's inside. He gets there. Down comes de Groot. So this is the highest Nick de Groot's been so far tonight. He will take away the 3rd spot. Matt Wagner had to check up. Means that he's now under assault from Eric Schaus. What a drive from Schaus. He's now made his way around Robert Maleska III. And keep your eyes in the background as well, because David Cook starting to show a little bit of pace as well, climbing his way onto the rear bumper and rear wing of Robert Maleska III. So, if you thought it was calm and cool and collected for the first stages of the motor race, all of a sudden it comes alive after our 3rd caution period of the night. And what a race it's been. Cars fighting each other all the way down the pack. Rayvon now clear by half a second over his competitors. Henry Bennett Little bit too hot into turn 1 and 2. Slides up the track. Nick de Groot, first time he's been into the top 3 so far tonight. He wants a piece of the action. Wagner going backwards. Has he looked after the tires? I don't think so. And Jeff, things are slowly starting to settle down, but what a run. What a run from Ravon, what a run from Henry Bennett, what a run from Nick de Groot and Matt Wagner going backwards.
Absolutely. You know, I said right before we restarted that I had assumed that Matt Wagner would have been saving a little bit. I actually think the opposite might be true. He probably wasn't used to brawling with these guys tonight as hard as everybody else had been, and might have been just caught a little off guard by the ferocity of that restart. My God in heaven, I know I sure was.
Well, it's been a team motor race up until the most recent restart, lap 42. That caution came out. Ever since then, the race has just started to heat up a little bit, quickly approaching the halfway mark. In fact, we're already past the halfway mark. It is now 61st lap of the night, so under 60 to go. We haven't seen green flag stops as of yet. And don't forget, the balance of these cars changes quite aggressively. As well, as that fuel begins to burn off, they become a lot more rear happy.
There goes Eric Schaus.
Schaus to the outside of Matt Wagner's going to clear him. He'll get that position away. Next in the queue will be Robert Maleska III, and I'd say Wagner's going to come under assault probably within even half a lap. David Cook falls a little of the way back. Look at that defensive driving to the bottom of the race circuit.
Also something to be said about clean air as we watch Matt Wagner continue to fall. Another issue he might be having is he's not used to driving in the draft, so to speak, of these cars. If I was a betting man, I'd say the car drives entirely different when you have a string of cars in front of you.
Right, betting man you are. Betting man, you would have just won yourself some money for sure.
We don't bet
Stock
much.
cars.
We bet pennies here.
You won yourself a single penalty, but hey, you did come away on the positive side of that bet. The Troy Lee Designs Motegi 185 has been a hotly contested race so far, and we are only just past the halfway marker. Rick Ravon, your championship leader, leads the race. So championship implications, and don't forget to keep your eyes on those drivers in the top 5. Henry Bennett, Nick de Groot, Matt Wagner, Robert Maleska III. They are the remainder of your top 5 in the championship, and all of them within inside the top 6 in the race as well. 6th in the championship, Bronson Stafford not here tonight. Off with the Flat Out Racing Network crew at Bristol. If those guys are listening in, bring me back something nice. And then mail it to Australia. Also, Jeff. Jeff deserves something, guys. Jeff deserves something. Bring him back something nice. Jeff's a part of the team. Maybe the X-team, but he's a part of the team. Jeff, you having fun?
Absolutely. Also, I just noticed Matt Wagner has actually hit pit road.
Well, fuel stops now starting to become important. Matt Wagner maybe burned off a little bit too much fuel in the early run. That might be the reason for his drop in pace. And with 53 laps remaining in the race, I would almost assume that there would definitely be a one stop to home from here. One future stop. So 2 stops currently, 1 stop remaining for Matt Wagner. So Wagner's going to rejoin in 17th, I believe, 1 lap down. So if a caution was to fly right now, Wagner's race would effectively, well, it wouldn't be over, but it would be close to over.
You've made your bed, and now you've got to lay in it, as they say. Matt Wagner making a judgment call, maybe making a mistake, or playing a sort of strategy here at Motegi.
He's looking for the undercut. We could see him flowing backwards throughout the traffic. He's searching for that clear air. Maybe he's found it.
Possibly.
Just heard Todd Schneider on the radio as well mention that he's coming to pit road this time by. 3 laps down he is. So he will actually cede a position to John Di Matteo. because those guys both at the 3-lap down marker. So it will be Schneider moving to probably 4 to 5 laps down after this cycle of pit stops. Leaders, you'd have to say, within the 5-lap mark to come to pit road. Eric Schaus to the inside. Keep your eyes on this battle as well. Nick de Groot's going to send it to the inside of Henry Bennett here. Bennett just lets that one happen. And just in behind that battle was Schaus versus Robert Maleska III. This is a huge vote of confidence from Eric Schaus. Hasn't had the season that he potentially would have liked. But towards the tail end of it, if things, you get a gold star next to your name, won't be too heavily complaining about things. Rick Ravon on the radio will be pitting this time by. So, pit stop cycle about to commence. This will be crucial for Wagner. Where does he come out in relation to everybody else? He's made his pit stop. He's got clear air to the nose of that number 11 machine. Gonna have a quick look at his pace over the last couple of laps too. Very quick as well. So I'm wondering whether he might be trying to look after those tyres and push at the same time. Rick Ravon, the only car to come to pit road. There was one other car, sorry, my apologies. I think it might have been David Cook. It was David Cook, Ravon's teammate. So both of those guys to pit road this time by Henry Bennett, Nick de Groot, both on their way into pit lane as we speak. Robert Maleska III and Eric Schaus trundle on by for another lap in the books. Charles Teed will continue circulating as well. On the radio comes Maleska III and Schaus. So they'll be both down pit road. So field will normalise after this lap. By the sounds of things, you're going to have the bulk of your field to come in. No, Charles Teed's going to stay out and put another lap in the books.
So the big thing right now for these guys pitting and who haven't pit is to not make a mistake.
Interesting. Matt Wagner did not get the undercut done on Rick Ravon. Rick Ravon's pit stop very clean, very quick. Now he will rejoin. Henry Bennett and Nick de Groot will rejoin directly in front of him. Eric Peterson, 3 seconds behind him. So that hasn't gone Matt Wagner's way. Spoke to Matt Wagner over the last couple of weeks. He expected to win here. And this will pretty much be the deciding factor, I would say, in his season. If he can't pick up a win here, I would say he's not got a shot at the title. But he might be hoping to pick up the scraps, pick up P2, P3 in the championship would probably be his best bet.
Wondering
but then again, with the wacky nature of the championship and the results and what we've seen, anything could still happen for the number 11.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything could still happen here and in the final races. I am wondering where Matt Wagner lost all that time, because he actually, if I'm looking at this right, he was actually the fastest in and out of pit road. So maybe he lost a little bit. He lost time somewhere getting on or off pit lane. But start to finish, from end to end on pit road, he was the fastest of all the drivers that pit, actually.
Very quick. Down and through pit lane. Robert Maleska III sends it to his inside. And with that tyre wear, I'd say Wagner's just going to continue to trend backwards as well. Probably in his best. He's going to attempt to reassault Wagner. Back down to his inside. He's going to keep the fight going, I suppose. Whole host of drivers still haven't pit yet. I'm assuming that this is all the drivers actually that pit under our most recent caution. And by the looks of that, yes, that is the case. AJ Hobson on the radio says that he's coming in this time by, well, 42 to go.
This will be the last
Jimmy
of
Dryden.
our leaders to hit pit lane.
Yeah, could the drivers make it home from here? Potentially?
Well, to be...
Because if so, Jimmy Dryden's probably got this race won.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, I'm simply not sure. I'm not sure what you can get out of fuel in these DW12s. We'll have to see. It's just going to be a waiting game now.
Rick Ravon encroaches on the rear bumper of Jimmy Dryden, and Dryden immediately on the radio to say that he's going to be making his way to pit road. Drivers returning to the racing circuit from pit road as well. So Ravon and our previous cast of drivers that were one lap down will return to the lead lap. So we'll begin to see those gaps normalize. First round of green flag stops so far this evening now complete for all of our field. And Rick Ravon continues to wander away at the front. Henry Bennett, though, has got Nick de Groot very close in behind him, and that battle between Robert Maleska III and Matt Wagner has not settled down. Maleska III is going to send it to his inside now, and we'll clear him on the end shooter 1 and 2. So now, who will be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel? Will Jimmy Dryden be able to get there? And I just heard somebody on the radio, Dylan Moskowitz, saying that there may have been an incident between Eric Peterson and Eric Schaus, and Schaus looks like he's come away the worst for wear out of that one. Still bringing his machine back up to speed.
Yeah, Schaus way off the pace. Looks like he may not be coming to pit road this time by, just trying to get back up to speed. See if we can't take a quick look at what happened.
The Flat Out Racing Network replay.
Got to look for you in turn 3.
Very deep in there goes Eric Schaus. Got on the anchors. And loses a whole host of spots from that one. He was locked up.
Yeah,
it looks like he's actually gotten out of that one okay, so no real damage to that car.
It was like it looked like he might have made some contact with the right front suspension. Not sure how that'll affect the handling, or if at all, if the contact was actually made.
Well, I'm just keeping an eye on his lap times. He is massively slower, is Eric Schaus, now than everybody else around him.
Yeah, I think
he
definitely does.
1.5 seconds a lap.
Yeah,
so
I think he definitely does have damage there.
Well, with 35 laps to go, Jeff, I think it's a really good opportunity for us to take a quick breather before we'll bring you the coverage from the end of the race as we look to go FRN side by side.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Teague. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you could only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine. Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Teague. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you could only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
Welcome back to the Troy Lee Designs 185 at Twin Ring Motegi. It is race number 13 of the Dark Horse Racing Series. A phenomenal race so far that has Rick Ravon in the lead with 26 laps to go. Scott, as the newbie, I think I was set up to be surprised by everything I saw tonight, but I have never seen racing quite like this in iRacing, and especially with these Indy cars.
I mean, especially with the aero package, I mean, it's difficult to get overtaking. One of the benefits of stock car racing is that you go side by side multiple laps in a row, and that's just how it is. You've got to really look after the tires. These Indy cars a lot different in the handling. Whilst we were FRN side by side right then, good news. First of the pit stops for the final cycle have started to play themselves out. Jeff Hysong has made his final stop. Matt Wagner, Gail Brooks, Jim Herrick, Eric Schaus, all of your drivers that have, my apologies. Yes, Eric Schaus has made his final stop. So drivers have come down pit road to get the undercut on their rivals, get that last splash of fuel to make it to the end. And I get the feeling that all of those drivers who had pit earlier could not make it to pit road. The earliest available drivers to pit in this cycle was Gail Brooks. So I have a feeling that pit lane cycle opened on lap 88 and nobody out of that last green flag run managed to make it that far. So I would say from Jimmy Dryden right the way through, won't be able to make it on fuel. Yeah, he's about 5-6 laps short potentially on fuel. So he may be saving very aggressively to get there.
Well, those guys...
A single caution though, Jeff. That'll change it.
Yeah, I was going to say, as those guys worry about saving, we've got an interesting three-car battle brewing here for third. Henry Bennett and Nick DeGroot have just been trading positions every half lap, every turn, every corner almost. These guys are just almost look like they're toying with each other as Rick Ravon slowly continues to build his lead.
Not necessarily sure that these guys have got anything for Rick Ravon in the closing phases of this race, but they've got something for one another. And Nick DeGroot once again will clear Henry Bennett to go to the point. And Robert Maleska will just continue to watch these guys fight it out. Henry Bennett once again to the inside, gets enough of a draft support. He'll send it down here into turn 1 and 2. And he'll clear Nick DeGroot before DeGroot will assault him again along the back straight away. Talking about new drivers to the field so far tonight, Craig Forsyth, new entry, having his first run in the Dark Horse Racing Series. What a good job it's been from Craig Forsyth, currently running in the P8 position, up 2 spots although yet to make his final stop of the night. Dylan Moskowitz as well, from P12 all the way up to P7. What about Nick de Groot from the rear end of the field? He's always had that pace, though, Nick de Groot. We were pretty sure this was going to happen. And speaking of Nick de Groot, another car to cycle himself through pit lane is Nick de Groot at this point in time. Look at that happy face of Nick de Groot's. Tell you what, won't he be happy to close down the championship just a little bit tighter.
Pit stop starting in earnest now. Here comes Rick.
Do you think his buddy Morty will follow him into pit lane?
I don't see a Morty on track.
Maybe David Cook's nickname is Morty. Teammate to Rick Ravon. What a finish they had a couple weeks ago at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Mosport. P2 and P3. Henry Bennett won that race. I tell you what, it was good to see Rick Ravon, People's Champion, last week back to his winning ways at the Milwaukee Mile. It was a phenomenal race from him. Todd Schneider will be the car leaving pit lane alongside of him. Keep your eyes on Eric Schaus, who'll begin to climb his way back up through the field after suffering that damage earlier on. So Dylan Moskowitz, I believe we've got on camera there at this point in time. Still yet to make his stop. Eric Peterson, big lock up on the way into pit road for him. I get the feeling that he may get a penalty out of that stop. And I think that was David Cook. And flag is out. Yellow flag is out. Henry Bennett, Robert Molesco III, Charles T, Dylan Moskowitz, AJ Hobson's your top 5. Those are the drivers that haven't stopped yet. Jimmy Dryden, Eric Peterson still on the lead lap as well, and then a whole host of cars at the 1 lap down marker. Lead one of those is David Cook, which will actually turn into Nick de Groot this time by.
Well.
Drivers attempting to play the pit lane strategy, and it has not worked in their favor yet again.
Well, let's grab your FRN replay. Try to take a look at what brought that yellow out. Again, another kind of under the radar incident. My immediate look around the track, I was not able to find it, but it's out there somewhere.
It's out there somewhere. Just like the yellow flag in the air. It's out there somewhere.
It's out. I know it's out, but I don't know why.
Harry Corley, I noticed, is a long way back off the... no, sorry, my apologies. That'll be... I think it's... Eric Peterson. It might be Eric Peterson, actually.
Eric Schaus, actually. I just found a look at it here. All the way up against the wall. Stopped in turn number 1. I'll get you a look at it here. Looks like he just... too high and too fast off the corner, smacks the wall and essentially destroys the race car. Tries to keep it up there, keep it out of the racing groove for those guys behind him. Oof. And then it's just undrivable. Car comes to a stop, yellow comes out, and that changes everything, Scott.
Oh, doesn't it? Not least for Eric Schaus, who's got one heck of a damaged race car. He's going to take the wave around, I assume. Because it would be, he's at 2 laps down, and he had a fast race car for a long period tonight, and when it matters, another one of those drivers that just hasn't been able to piece it together.
Yeah, so good for about half the race, and then the hits just started coming.
Well, when they start coming, they don't stop coming. They bend to the rules, and they hit the ground running.
Well, now I got a question that you'll have to answer for me. We have the lucky dog rules, but do we have wave around rules? Are all these guys that are a lap down?
Wave around.
Okay,
yep.
Perfect.
Answer me a question, Jeff. I'm curious about this. You said you're a stock car man. What's your favorite circuit?
Favorite circuit? Huh. Now you're gonna make me think about it. It depends on the type of stock cars, because one of the most enjoyable, well, at least it used to be one of the most enjoyable runs you could make was the ARCA car at Atlanta. There's something to be said about the way that car drives and the way that track handles.
It's a good combination. I don't mind that. Yeah, that's a good one. What about you, everybody out there in the stream watching along on YouTube? What are your favorite car and track combinations? Go ahead and let us know in the chat. I'm a Pocono man. I'm a big Pocono man.
I think
anything at Pocono, anything.
Yeah, I think Pocono, any of the NASCAR cars at Pocono are probably some of the most enjoyable racing you could come by. Just broadcast a truck series there recently, and that was one of the most enjoyable broadcasts I've done personally here on FRN and in general.
Road course wise, I'm not gonna lie, that race at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, that was enjoyable. Difficult for the drivers as well. You could see the drivers struggling. Righto, so lights will be out on the pace car this time by, which means the field of wave rounds have commenced. So Henry Bennett will control the field from Robert Maleska, Charles Teed, Dylan Moskowitz, AJ Hobson, Jimmy Drynan, Nick DeGroot will be the first of the cars that DeGroot come back down pit road, I think. Very recent. No, he was down pit road when the caution flag flew. We're at a lap. No, he has come back down pit road last time by. So Nick DeGroot, back end of the lead lap cars. Matt Wagner will be the first of the cars that took the wave around.
As we get ready for this restart, I just noticed AJ Hobson, after that early wreck, restarting P5 here on the lead lap. So we'll get to see what he's got for these leaders as the pace car hits pit road.
Green flag in the air. Cars trying to get their... Drivers trying to get their cars back through the gears. And Nick DeGroot immediately starts to try and get a whole bunch of moves done. Keep your eyes on Rick Ravon back there. Matt Wagner is defending quite aggressively off from him, but it's all up at the point. Henry Bennett, Robert Maleska III are your leaders at this point in time, and keep your eyes all the way back through the pack. Matt Wagner, I think, may have just caught the wall because all of a sudden he's starting to drop like a rock. And Ravon starting to make a whole host of positions back up. He's up to P7.
Ravon on the move. Robert Maleska, a big move in turn one, and he's going to take the lead. I'm sorry, that's Henry Bennett. Robert Maleska back on the outside looking for that lead.
So Robert Maleska to the outside. Charles Teed and Nick DeGroot just in behind these guys. Dylan Moskowitz lost a few spots so far on this restart. Henry Bennett all the way to the inside of this one. Charles Teed on the inside heading into turn 1 and 2 as well, just in behind these guys. DeGroot will be on the outside of him, looking to build the run. Robert Maleska III as well. All the way to the inside now goes Nick DeGroot. Drives it all the way down the apron.
Oh, there he goes!
He tried to pinch him, and it didn't work for Charles Teed. He finds the fence, and an opportunity for all of those drivers to pit who didn't take tires under that last restart because they needed a wave around, and Charles Teed in the fence. He'll be bringing that car back down pit road. Benefit for him. He'll have the freshest tires in the field. But It will be a restart with only a couple laps left here to go at Motegi. Time to check the replay of that move, and I think this is just De Groot's to his inside, and he just pinches him and doesn't really give him much of a route to go for Nick De Groot. That's the view from Charles Teed's perspective. We'll grab Nick De Groot's perspective, I'd say, here in a few moments. Your take on that one, Jeff? It's just, we've seen a lot of cars and drivers try to pinch drivers to the inside line.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. It looks like, I'd say Nick De Groot, was making quite a move there, but I don't know that Charles Teed. I think Charles Teed definitely held him down, but I don't think, even if Charles Teed had given him room in the corner, I don't think there's any way Nick De Groot was gonna make that corner just on the bottom. I think he was gonna push up a lane or two, no matter what. Just good hard racing here in the end, and maybe we'll call it a brain fart on both drivers' parts. I don't think either of them were gonna make it through that turn unscathed one way or the other. And now they've set us up for what will essentially be a green-white checkered with fresh tires
three
versus...
laps to go here.
Yeah.
Because the lights on the pace car are still on. So there will be at least one more lap under caution.
Well, we've kind of seen a little bit of everything this race. I gotta say, Scott, I'm not sure what to expect on this restart. How do these guys handle late race restarts?
Good. The action is good. It's clean generally. As you can see, like the racing has been incredibly close for all of these guys, but they're giving each other space and they're throwing blocks, but the blocks are expected, and everyone's expecting to reach each other nice and tight. Got to keep our eyes now on series leader Rick Ravon, and right behind him will be Matt Wagner on this next restart. Directly in front of them, they'll have AJ Hobson back on the lead lap after being 2 laps down in the early running. Dylan Moskowitz is in P4 as well, so a few cars are a little bit out of sequence. Moskowitz has had pace though tonight. He's not necessarily been the slowest driver out there, that is certainly for sure. A good opportunity for Moskowitz to take home a huge bank of points. What can he make of this one? Any driver in particular you're going to be keeping your eyes on here? Maybe even Jimmy Dryden all the way back there in P8 as well, Jeff?
I've had my eye on Robert Miletzka all race. I would guess that he is going to be the driver in the catbird seat. It looks like it will be 2 to go in regulation on the restart, if I'm doing that math right. And I think Robert Miletzka is going to be in the position where if he can avoid the block, get a good jump, get a good run, get something, have a little bit of luck go his way, and just get to the inside of Henry Bennett, I think it'll be his race to win. What happens behind him, how those guys restart, and where they are in relation to him getting in the corner is yet to be seen, but I think of all the drivers, I think Miletzka is going to be in the best spot on this restart.
Well, what happens to the lights on the pace car? They go off this time by. So mathematics correct for Jeff Johnson here in the booth. Henry Bennett will control your field from Robert Miletzka III. Nick De Groot lines up in 3rd. Dylan Moskowitz 4th. AJ Hobson 5th. Rick Ravon will be 6th on this restart. Matt Wagner controlled the early running. The top qualifiers so far this evening. From 7th, Jimmy Dryden 8th, David Cook, teammate to Rick Ravon and series leader 9th, Eric Peterson from 10th, Gary Corley 11th, Gail Brooks 12th, Jeff Hysong 13th, Craig Forsyth 14th, Jim Herrick 15th, Charles Teed all the way back in 16th. He's had a phenomenal race so far tonight as Charles Teed, and to see him drop like a rock to the rear end of the standings at this point in time, It's disappointing. Eric Schaus, I believe, was the beneficiary of the lucky dog that last time by, so he's moved to 3 laps down. He will finish. The running order for those guys will be 17th, 18th, 19th. So it'll be Schaus, Schneider, and Di Matteo, respectively. And Covey Moore, very early race retirement in P20.
Well, we've seen a little bit of everything, so let's see what we can get done here, Scott.
Control of the field, hand it over to Henry Bennett. Will he go early? Will he go late? All the way down on the bottom. Robert Maleska's right there. Back up through the gears. They get on the gas, and time to get out of here. Nick de Groot trying to assault Robert Maleska to his outside. He wanted to see if he could get to the inside of the 91 machine. Wasn't able to get there, but de Groot's still locked in. Rick Ravon's managed to get by AJ Hobson already, so keep your eyes peeled for him. He's got Dylan Moskowitz in front of him right now. Once again, it'll be Robert Maleska III to the inside to defend this one. White flag will be in the air. De Groot's got a huge run on the high side. He's got the drafting assistance from Henry Bennett, but Henry Bennett's got daylight in between him and the next cars. Nick de Groot still to the outside line. Robert Maleska gets that run on the inside. Will de Groot be able to get back to him? He tries to go underneath him, follows him down the backstretch. Now the nose isn't quite there. He's going to take it deep into the corner. Nick de Groot all the way to the bottom of the racetrack. Rick Ravon manages to get back to P4, and now he's going to have a crock at Robert Maleska III, and there'll be nothing between them as they cross the line. It will be Henry Bennett, your race winner, who has really put a fire under this championship fight. Nick de Groot will take P2. Robert Maleska will take P3 by only 8 thousandths of a second over Rick Ravon. And what a final restart that was from Rick Ravon. Started P7 all the way up to P4. That was a phenomenal drive.
About
Jeff, your
well,
first taste of IndyCar? What do you take away from that?
Well, my first takeaway there is Henry Bennett did absolutely everything he needed to do on the restart. He backed the field up just a little bit, but not egregiously. Got a good jump on the restart, and basically left Nick de Groot and Robert Maleska to take care of themselves, as he more or less just waltzed to the finish. No real challenges those last 2 laps. Just kind of took this one on the chin, and he got the W.
Well, important to note as well, Henry Bennett was only 4 points behind Rick Ravon coming into tonight's race. He will take that series lead back over. Robert Maleska III had 4 wins and was tied with Henry Bennett in the series wins so far this season. Henry Bennett will now take over most wins on the season. And Rick Ravon, how far down the order will he slip? I don't think it'll be a huge margin. Nick de Groot was in P2, so 2 places ahead of Rick Ravon, and he was 15 points back off him. Robert Maleska III will finish just in front of Rick Ravon. And Matt Wagner, he said, and I quote, "This is my best track. I feel like I should win here. I've been a strong driver here. This is where I've had the most success." Finishes in P8. The dice did just not fall his way tonight.
A good finish and a good race all around for these guys. And yeah, just an exciting race to watch as a broadcaster and a fan. We call that good content and good racing. So I think this is one of those races where everybody, including the guy who won the race, walks away happy. The rest of the drivers, maybe not so much. Some of those guys that we saw just kind of get caught out by that late race yellow that trapped half the field a lap, well, didn't trap him a lap down, but in the middle of green flag pit stops just kind of shook everything up, and Henry Bennett comes out on top.
Well, hasn't that been the mark of the season so far? Green flag pit stops and a yellow comes out. That has pretty much been everything that's happened so far this season. Well, we're going to be talking to a few of our drivers after this race. They'll be down here in what I assume will be just a few moments. So we'll have to keep our eyes out for those guys. I mean, what a race it was, though, for Nick de Groot. Started all the way through in the back of the pack, made his way through, picked up a couple spots under each restart, eventually pushed his way to the head of things, and finishes P2. Like, that's a phenomenal effort from Nick de Groot, and that will keep his championship hunt alive. Don't forget as well, Robert Maleska III. It's been a few weeks since he's been involved in our podium celebrations. So that's, again, another driver that'll be like, whew, monkey off the back, managed to get another strong finish. But seriously, Jeff, a strong race all around.
Absolutely, a lot of times it is very easy for any league race and official race in general to just kind of fall off the rails. But we saw a lot of patience, a lot of aggression, and a lot of common sense out of these guys. I don't think I saw an incident tonight that, to put it bluntly, you could label as stupid or idiotic. I think a lot of these guys were racing as hard as they could. I think some guys got caught up in racing incidents. Some guys just made simple mistakes. But all in all, this is probably one of the better races I've ever seen on iRacing, and certainly one of the most aggressive.
It was aggressive. It was defensive. It was a little bit of both worlds, but racing action was out there in spades this evening. What a race it was, too. It was phenomenal. From lights out, yeah, things were a little bit quiet, things were a little bit tame, but you kind of expect that when the Dark Horse Racing Series comes to town. They know that they've got to look after their cars. They know that they've got to get themselves to the end of the race, and they do so quite well. And that championship fight, though, it's been changing hands just about every week over the last few weeks. It'll change hands again here tonight, and who will lead us off once again from next week?
Well,
I know why.
I was just about to say, I wonder if you got the same message I did.
From Henry Bennett saying that he can't interview. Yeah, Henry Bennett's a very, very busy guy. Can't get down here. But I'd love to have a chat to Robert Maleska III. I'll just see if I can grab him. Give me a sec. Robert Maleska, it's Scott and Jeff down here in the booth. How you doing this evening?
Good, how are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Difficult race. Blocking and getting to all the way to the inside wall was, by and large, the nature of tonight's proceedings.
Yeah.
But you guys would have known that coming in, too. It was a great race all around. The racing itself was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was, yeah, it's pretty chaotic. Personally, I don't understand why we're 30 laps into the race of a 120-lap race. We're weaving back and forth, but, yeah, I kind of just dropped back there and saved my tires, let those guys just keep on weaving, getting really close to wrecking. Got a little bit lucky with that caution, but pretty sure I would have been up there at the end anyways.
In terms of things, that keeps your championship hunt alive. Last week we saw a really quirky fact, is that the gap between most drivers in the field was like 11 points from then to the next driver. That'll be a little bit different at the end of proceedings this week, but the Championship 5 it's really tight up there. Matt Wagner may have just drifted a little bit out of the picture, but with 5 races to go now, what's your focus for next week?
Really just no DNFs, continue getting really top 5s. If you continue getting top 5s, through the remainder of the season, I really don't think there's a way you can lose the championship, because then drop weeks come into effect, and once those come into effect, I'm pretty sure I'll be out there, because I think I've had 2 DNFs and everything else is top 5s, top 6s. So yeah.
That'll really help out Rick Ravon's point standings, though, because he was at the point standings at the head of things, and he's only got 1 race that he's missed. So I mean, it's gonna be exceptionally tight heading into the last couple of races. Is there anyone that that you've got to beat next week when we head to Phoenix?
No, not really. The usual suspects are going to be out there. Really, I think you saw today that really anything can happen with strategies. So personally, I don't think leading most of the races is going to win you it. I think saving fuel, because you saw not in the first caution, but what, the second last one or last one there, that saving fuel just to go longer on the cycle will really help you and could really put you in a nice position at the end there.
And then finally, Robert, I would like to offer you the chance to give a thank you to your sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, thanks to HyperX, Troy Lee Designs for jumping on board for the series. Shout out to Turn 4 Racing Discord and my teammates because we worked really well today. And Jeff made a big call of someone wrecking while me and Dylan were just about to pit there under that second to last yellow. So, yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Robert Maleska III, and thank you very much for jumping down into the booth, Robert. Have a lovely evening.
Yep, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Next driver that we'll be going ahead to have a conversation with will be Nick DeGroot, who finished P2 tonight. So going ahead, Nick, it's Scott and Jeff in the booth. Seth's not here this week. How you going, buddy?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Started P18 tonight, long road all the way back up to P2, but it was a great race right the way through. It made it difficult to move through the pack, and it looked like you guys were having an absolute blast out there, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely nervous when I wasn't able to qualify there and starting back in 18th at a track like Motegi, but very early on, I was kind of just feeling it out. I'm like, all right, I think I can move forward here. I think I have a rhythm, and that whole race, we just kept on marching forward. So it really worked out, and it was fun racing up there with those guys. There was a lot of cool battles I had throughout that race. I couldn't even remember most of them because there's just so many from the get-go. Everybody's fighting for every spot. It was real good racing.
It's tough and it's close, and I mean, if you keep your eyes forward, looking to what's coming, we've got Phoenix next week, and there's only 5 weeks of the championship left, and things are really hotting up at the top end of the championship table. It is tight. You cannot afford a slip up at this point in time, and there's a good chance that Henry Bennett, just from winning tonight's race, will move back into the championship lead. You've got to keep your eyes on that championship table, don't you?
Oh, yeah. And I think the main thing I need to do is just keep getting these podiums. We only have 1 win this season, but we have so many podiums. I think that's our 4th second place finish maybe. So if we can keep doing stuff like that with a season-long championship like this, that's how you do it. You don't necessarily have to win hand over fist. And I'd like to win, of course, but getting points like that, top 2, top 3 finishes, that's how you do it. And Phoenix is another track I think we can go and get another podium and hopefully another factory-backed one too.
Track next week at Phoenix. These will be on the anchors just a little bit more. It's another track that's going to promote tight racing, and not only that, but the blocking back and forth tonight. We're going to see more of that at Phoenix, you think, next week?
Oh, yeah. I don't think it'll be as pronounced at Phoenix as it was here, but there's definitely going to be quite a bit blocking, especially with that long backstretch. You can get some big ruds on people, and you can get a little dicey there. It's also, on that same token, a big track position race, and I think that's how we won there that one time. Yeah, we just got ahead of everybody on the fuel game and able to get out front, and nobody was able to pass us, which is pretty cool. But yeah, should be interesting. And as long as I have you, can you tell me when is Long Beach? Because I thought it was last week, and now I thought it was next week. So when are we going to Long Beach? Is that after Phoenix?
I'm looking at the schedule and I'm reading it off. So we've got Phoenix, we've got Iowa, Long Beach, Texas, and then Indy. Yeah, so Long Beach is the 3rd last race. We're 2 weeks away.
I keep putting Long Beach. Like I kept telling Kobe last time, I'm like, yeah, we're going to be going to Long Beach. And I'm like, oh, no, we're going to Motegi. And then I'm like, oh, we're going there next week. And then I realized it's Phoenix. So I guess I'm just excited for Long Beach.
Well, another great finish here for you tonight. Nick, good opportunity to go ahead and thank those sponsors, mate.
Yeah, just as always, Factory Back Motorsports, CoverMart.com, Motorsport.com, HyperX, Blaze Pods, Cowboy Shit, everybody else that backs this team. And, of course, an apology to T there. I was real low entering that corner, and I was hooking that white line, and it was still a real aggressive move, though. And he's trying his best to defend, and we made contact. So I always hate to see that. I think it's a racing incident in the end, but I always hate to hit anybody, especially somebody like T, who's always so cool and so clean to race with. So apologies to him for that. But, yeah, another good points day, another factory-backed one, too, and we'll look ahead to the next one.
let's have a look. Let's have a look at that because obviously we won't have Henry Bennett here for interviews. We just don't have the pleasure of Henry Bennett's presence, unfortunately, here. So we've got an extended interview slot with you, shall we say?
All right.
The incident with Charles T, he pinched you a long way down and he kept you there. If you were on the high side, you would have probably tried. I think we did see you multiple times throughout the race trying to open up the corner a little bit. But he just wanted to pinch you all the way down. It's one of those racing incidents whereby, yeah, he pinched you, but you've still got to make the corner at the same time. Do you think he's probably squeezed you a little bit too tight, or what? How do you review an incident like that?
Yeah, my aim there would definitely be to enter wide and just try to get the runoff corner. But what he was trying to do, just keep me down there, because I don't think he thought that I could hold it on that white line and I was going to have to lift. And when we go off into the corner, I'm still right there. I think that surprised him a little bit. So, it's just a racing deal. Two guys going after one piece of track. But I tried to hold it on that white line the best I could. And I think I was able to do that. So, it's unfortunate, but it happens.
All right. Well, thank you for the insight there, Nick. Much appreciated, brother. And look, we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and thank you to my teammate Henry for giving me that clean air into the last corner when I was battling Rob. That was very much appreciated. I think that helped us get the 1-2.
Well, thank you very much for your time as well. Much appreciated and great to see you back here in the booth.
As always, guys. Look forward to next week.
Well, Jeff, long race here tonight at Motegi and a long trip outside of the USA all the way to Japan. But next week we'll be making that long trek back. It's Phoenix. It's a short track. It's a tricky track. But also they said, a little bit more opportunity for overtaking on that long backstretch complete with dogleg. Thoughts on Phoenix?
Well, actually, before I get too far into it, is it Old Phoenix or is it New Phoenix?
It's New Phoenix, by the look of things.
Without knowing really how these cars drive at Phoenix, I'm assuming the dogleg will be blocked. I think it'll be interesting. I think just like Nick said there, it's gonna be all about track position. It's gonna be about where you start and just maintaining, because I think the opportunities to pass are gonna be few and far between at a track like that. But I probably would have said the same thing about this. I think that about the Indy cars in general. I think these guys proved something to me tonight that I didn't know I thought, but that it's the IndyCar is a very it's a race car. That's what it is. That's what it's designed for, and I think you'll see a good race, and I also think you'll see some good things.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the broadcast here from the Twin Ring Motegi. What a race it was at the Gateway-esque Speedway. That's a shot right there of the road course from Motegi, which is also a cracker. They race MotoGP bikes here, which look, Jeff, I grew up racing motocross, so look, that's certainly where my interest lies. But hey, I'll be interested in some cars from time to time. Championship standings, actually, I was just taking a quick look, are already updated. God, the admins here work quickly. So I'll grab a quick look at those. We'll have a quick chat. And indeed, it is going to be Henry Bennett that moves to the point on 484 points. Rick Ravon, 471 points is the next driver. So 13 points back from him. And that's a point swing of 17 points in favor of Henry Bennett, who leads at this point in time. But Robert Maleska, like you heard, said drop rounds still to play a factor at this point in time. Nick DeGroot, 12 points distant on Rick Ravon, back on 459. Robert Maleska the third, 12 points different back on him. So we've gone from 11 points was the consistent margin right throughout the field last time out to 12 points is the margin this time out. Matt Wagner, negative 19 on Robert Maleska the third. So that's your top five. It'll be Bennett 484, Ravon 471, Nick DeGroot 459, Maleska the third 447, and Wagner 428. The top five still covered by 56 points. That gap to Wagner has now widened a considerable margin, and he is going to need a strong finish next week out at Phoenix. We take a look forward to that one on the schedule. We thank you for everyone who has been here for the streams so far this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you all the racing from Dark Horse Racing Series Twin Ring Motegi. Matt Wagner, my apologies to you, my friend, out in the YouTube comments. The number 11 machine. I'm showing you on 428 points, my friend. You are 19 points different, 56 back from the leader. But it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you coverage of the Twin Rim Motegi. Seth Cole will be back alongside me next week. Bid adieu to Jeff Johnson. We thank him for his standing in. But that is going to be it. Thank you for watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.